Alright, so we are back for the final part of the stream where we are going to be looking at Fall of the Republic. So Fall of the Republic is currently being built within Imperial Civil War, so some of the assets like the background of the menu do say Imperial Civil War. However, well, it's all Thrawn's Revenge. Fall of the Republic, Imperial Civil War, it's all fun. So anyways, before we get into it, you can see already Arc 170 in the background, Carrick's in the background, it's all Imperial stuff. But anyways, the way we're developing the mod is we're building them both within the same thing, and we're just for like the background scripts and everything, so we don't have to edit the same thing 37 times. And then once it's ready to stand on its own, Fall of the Republic's like menu screen and all that will be put in. But do keep in mind while you are watching this that this is a very early version of the mod. There's a lot of stuff that's still being kind of converted from Imperial Civil War to the Clone Wars versions of the stuff, like the Carrick armament, that kind of thing. But there is a bunch of new stuff to look at. The map we are going to be looking at it on is... Nope. It says Arena Campaign. It's the Clone Wars test ground we basically set up based on the Arena Campaign. But you can see the factions here. We have the Confederacy and the Galactic Republic. We are going to put it on hard, and we're going to do the Confederacy first. We're going to do about 25 to 30 minutes with each faction. It's mostly space stuff that's been put in or updated. So there is still some ground stuff, but that's mostly stuff that you'd already see in ICW. So we're mostly just going to be focusing on our space stuff. I'm going to combine these fleets, and you know what? I'm just going to combine these fleets.
Navigating to coordinates.
Stuff like the VOs and everything will be done later.
Mission log updated. Tactical battle imminent.
So right now the main ships that are in for the CIS are like Munificent, Lucrehulk, and Providence, as well as like Vulture, Hyena, and the
Enemy forces ahead.
What's it called? Tri-Fighter.
Choose your reinforcements.
So this is the CIS Battleship version of the Lucrehulk, not the standard like CSA Zinj one you'd be used to.
Flank speed.
Tri-Fighters, those B-Wings are over. I can't remember if I got the Vulture bombers in or no. They're Hyena bombers. No, they're TIE bombers rather.
Bombers standing by.
The art assets are done for those, but you have the so many baby Vultures here. The first few versions especially are just going to be the CIS and the Republic.
We're on station. Cruiser reporting. Launching attack.
After that we might expand it to other stuff, but the main focus is still the Clone Wars.
Coming about. Destination confirmed. We're on our way. Weapons armed.
Yeah, the Vulture droid and the Hyena, and as well as Lucrehulk actually, were made by Max, who is joined up from Star Trek Armada 3 and Age of the Federation to help with some of the Fall of the Republic stuff specifically.
Batteries online. Pressing the attack. Making another pass. The engines are our primary target. Take out their engines. I'm on my approach.
Stuff like fighter amounts, balancing, all that stuff is going to be more of a focus later. Right now we're just getting the content kind of compiled and put together. One of the models that's actually being worked on right now is the Malevolence. So you should actually see the Malevolence or Subjugator, whichever one you want to call it. It's that's going to be not super soon because Levered is very busy, but it'll be one of the next things you see as far as new Fall of the Republic content.
Enemies in range. Weapons ready. The missile launchers are the primary target. Target locked. Got him now.
Does have raid fleets? Not at first, because it is just going to be the two factions. There will definitely be huts in the mod in some capacity. Whether we put in raid fleets with that, I'm not sure. But
Please repeat the communication.
Almost in range.
scale on the tri-fighters is a little off.
Disabled. Locking target. I can't stay out here.
Release the buzz droids.
Excellent shot.
I'm running out of maneuvers. I've got him disabled. Commander, they're hitting us. Did anyone else see him? Yes, sir. Disable those missile launchers.
Of course, the classic Clone Wars B-Wings still here. Yeah, so since 2.2 was released, a lot of the work I've been doing in Fall of the Republic especially has been trying to sort the mod back into a Clone Wars kind of state, getting all this stuff compiled that we already have done, as well as some of the stuff that we had done but not in-game for it. So actually there's a few units that are you're not seeing here that are ready to be in-game. So like the Hyena Droid Bomber, there is the Gozanti's done. We have a few other Clone Wars era fighters that are ready to go in, like the Actis, the Delta 7, the V-Wing, which technically was in the base game, but we have a different model for it. So you'll start seeing a lot of that stuff later. Obviously, the acclimators are currently using green turbo lasers, and they're supposed to be red, or blue rather. So a lot of that stuff is still going to be done, which is why this is a super early build. But and in terms of balancing, a lot of the Republic units, especially, are still using their using their Imperial Civil War armaments, so they have more modernized weaponry than they really should. Whereas the Providence and Lucrehulk are much weaker than they ought to be, and that's all going to take a while to get sorted out. But that's why we're working on it now.
Our shields are down. Our primary engine system is down. We're in attack position.
Get rid of these guys.
Regroup for another attack. Waiting orders.
I've got a lock. Thrusters at maximum. Waiting orders.
Maybe if I'm wrong, but since this is going to be a new mod, besides TR, can you scale things up a little? Clone Wars ships are dwarf and TR by Imperial vessels in the actually.
Our engines are gone, sir.
No, because basically the unit scale is fairly similar. Like, the Lucrehulks are going to be huge, which is true regardless, and if we scale the other stuff up, then the Lucrehulks have to be really, really huge, which makes pathfinding absolute trash. And the battles in Fall of the Republic are going to use a lot more ships than in Imperial Civil War. So if you try to scale things up, you're going to have a pathfinding hell, which is not fun.
They've destroyed our ion cannons.
The laser cannons. Another attack. They're coming in.
Our turbo laser batteries have been disabled.
Well, like I said, the Lucrehulk armament is still the shitty ISTW one,
The ion cannons
so it's
are
not putting out
inoperable.
anywhere near as much damage as it would. And the fighter complements are just like all the Clone Wars stuff piled into one thing.
Your transmission is garbled. Repeat, over.
Ties reporting in.
Locking target. Careful. Locking target.
Especially with the Republic armaments being upgraded to the Imperial versions, like quad turbo lasers on the equipment over there, turbos. Turbo lasers were typically a lot more rare during the Clone Wars.
Fire at will.
Go after the stragglers. Regroup for another attack.
Our primary engine system is down.
Excellent shot.
Well, if you scale it up, so let's say the Venator is going to be similar to the size of an ISD in the other game, like we want to have more ships per battle generally. So if you have the,
Launch bay has been destroyed.
because the Venator as it is like
We've
what,
lost our turbo
11,
lasers.
137 meters, something like that. And then you scale that up by 30%, you're up to like 1,400, 1,500 meters. And then that's close to what an ISD is. So you're basically putting it in the same role as the ISD, but you want more of them than that. So the new replacement size ISD is already going to be huge. And then you have stuff like the double size Providence and Rikisant, and the Lucahulk, which are already pretty big ships in ICW. You then scale them up to their proper size and then scale them up by 30% even more. Then that's going to be an issue. Then you have stuff like the Praetor, where they're already big ships, so you can sort of see how that would become a problem.
Direct fire at their laser cannons. Moving in for the kill. Locking target. I've got my approach vector. Waiting orders.
Or there'd be more ships in Fall of the Republic battles as opposed to ICW. Because the Clone Wars tended to have larger battles, we want to get that feel. That's kind of what we're going for.
We have been defeated.
Ah, I sort of win. Because, like, you still have stuff like precursors, or not precursors, praetors. You have a lot of pretty big things on both sides. The subjugator, or malevolence, whatever you want to call it. So those are proportionally going to take up more space. And then when you're scaling the battles around that, with those as the maximum ship, like that's the new kind of executor level, then you're still trying to get the feel of the Clone Wars where it's a bigger amount of smaller ships. Then you need to be able to plan around pathing all that stuff.
Tactical battle imminent.
Well, like I said earlier, the huts will be in the mod at some point. We haven't said what their actual capacity will be there as, but there weren't as many. There won't ever be as many factions
Choose your
as
reinforcements.
in ICW.
Moving out. Heading out. Fall out. Let's move out.
Because they're simply doesn't look like that.
Reinforcements en route.
Regroup for another attack.
The Pride of the Core isn't really a
The
thing.
lasers are our target.
Coming around. Taking.
That's something that just became popular in mods
I've got them in my
because
Commander,
reasons.
I'm in a tight spot. Our target priority is the laser cannons.
detected. Where'd he go? Nowhere to run.
I've got a lock.
I got
Where'd he come from?
coming back around for another
This is
run.
bad.
Falling out of formation. Getting a lock. Draw their fire. Intercepting. Attack formation. I'm losing. Go after the stragglers. Locking on. Regroup for another attack.
I'm under attack.
I'm on. They're coming.
A lot of the work in the first version
Take out the iron.
is going to be going into just getting the core rosters for the Republican CIS done, getting a few scenarios set up for them, and then most importantly getting the balance right between the two factions. Like clearly right now it's
Lasers are our target.
not very well balanced, it's just a compilation at the moment.
Got us targeted.
Behind them.
So that's going to be a big focus. That's going to be probably the main focus because a lot of the basic assets are done. Like the clone trooper models, they're all done. We have the Jedi ready. A lot of the heroes still need to be done as well. But we are going to have the news post fairly soon with the
Commencing attack run.
with the hero list for each faction. We were running a kind of game in the Discord server a few months ago where people were
Reporting.
guessing what the heroes were based on. Like I put up the first letters of each hero, and people were able to guess from that.
Almost in range.
Where'd he go?
No, the B-wings are not supposed to be there.
Functioning.
Enemies in range.
Can't stay out
Target
here.
locked.
Moving
Coming
in for
around.
the kill.
They're still using the generic object script,
Running out of maneuvers.
which is still shared between both mods.
Excellent shot.
Now.
So
I got
they're counting these as New Republic Munificence, which when boarded give the B-wings.
course.
So until we branch off that script and have them
Intercept.
I'm in a tight
using their
spot.
actual units,
Squadron
they're just
standing
gonna have B-wings hanging around for a little bit.
Enemy fighters
The
on
eye-
ion cannons are our primary target. Shoot him down. Shoot him down.
I know you know. I'm just saying in case there's anyone, because I'm assuming there are a lot of people who think, well, there's B-wings. That's just bullshit.
Target locked.
Enemy fighters.
Basically, any question that anyone can ask as a joke, there is someone out there who will ask it as a serious thing.
attack!
We haven't said what we're going to do for the voiceovers for Clones or Droids yet.
Our target priority is the laser cannons. Our primary target is those ion cannons. They've got us targeted.
Draw their fire.
Squad, I need help.
Locking
Can anyone
on.
else see him?
Coming back around for another
Where'd he
run.
come from?
Choose your
Where are
reinforcements.
you? This is bad. I can't take another
Enemies in
hit like
range.
that. My sensors are
Target
malfunctioning.
locked.
All right.
Eliminating target. Target locked.
Should I just read out the names of the heroes? Yeah, but so that all Jedi have their vendors, or a home ship and a spawn fighter. It'll depend on the Jedi. If they have a specific flagship that's generally associated with them, we'll probably include it. But we don't want to have it so that there's like 15 heroes with vendors at once, and then you never want to use them on ground. Because
Victorious.
generally, we want the Jedi to feel like they're most useful on the ground. But especially for some of them, there's heroes, like there's officers that were associated with them, like Yularen, where the where like I think was he with, yeah, but we'd have them with the flagship rather than with the Jedi. So all right, there's that.
Vehicle in production. Unit in production.
Because especially with hero permadeath, sometimes it can feel worse to risk. Just think about it, like how people see Palpatine in ICW, where it's not worth it risking the eclipse for them to use Palpatine on the ground. And clearly, there's obviously a disparity between that.
Tactical battle.
Oh, they have
imminent.
ISTs. This GC is basically just set up as a test ground with everything they'll have access to. So they can build ISTs, but normally that would be like a very limited late game thing that they have to kind of research up to. We're going to see, yep. So that kind of answers that, Aaron. There will be ISTs in the mod.
B-wing here. Closing on enemy.
ISTs are lower.
Engaging Imperial forces.
So it looks like the Vener is bigger than the IST, but that's just the Z-layer. Shouldn't the province be... Yeah, so again, that's just because of Imperial Civil War classifications.
Ready for battle.
Someone cover me! Enemy
Acquiring
fighters on me!
target.
Say that again, please.
A lot of that stuff is still being converted.
Advancing on your position.
I can't stay out here.
Research will be a thing, not quite like PR, like you're not going to be doing research for like the Venator 4, that kind of thing. But in both ICW and in Fall of the Republic, there's going to be more research elements involved. So like with the New Republic, you're going to be researching the new class ships. With the CIS and Republic, depending on which area you're in, you're going to have different options for researching different ships. Like you're not just going to transfer the area and get everything. One of the reasons we can do that is because there are fewer factions, where in Imperial Civil War we kind of have to think about trying to keep it fair between all the factions, where we can't really do ship research and unlockables like that for a lot of the warlords, anyone but the IR, NR, and PA, or Empire of the Hand. So we have to limit it that way. And also there wasn't as much development with the Imperial factions during that period. Within the Clone Wars, there was a lot of changes, a lot of research, a lot of ships that were introduced and prototyped and designed in that time period. And then especially as we go earlier,
I copy.
because the mod will reach into some pre-Clone Wars stuff, that's going to be more of a thing as well.
I can't take another hit like that. For the kill. I got my prospector. Enemy fighters on me. Enemy fighters incoming.
Enemy
I'm
craft.
under attack. Where's our cover? Where'd he come from? This is bad.
Got him disabled.
My sensors are
Locking on.
malfunctioning.
Enemies in range.
I'm hit. I can't stay out here. I'm running out of maneuvers. I'm losing my
Have them
engine.
now.
Let's not lose all our ships here.
Construction complete.
Star Destroyer
Basically, anything
reporting
within the
in.
time period that would make a good topic for an RTS will be covered. So in sort of the same way that in ICW we don't cover like the Reborn or sorry the Jedi Knight timeline or that kind of thing, because there's just like you can't really make a good RTS plot out of that. That's basically the criteria. Same kind of idea applies.
Tactical battle imminent.
Oh, they have even more stuff here. That's not good.
The enemy is approaching.
Munificent is actually getting a new model at some point, relatively soon. Not super soon, but semi-soon. The Architens, 90s, acclimators, another ISD. I'm not sure if this is the same fleet or what. I don't think it is. Well, we're going to be moving on to the Republic in a couple minutes anyway, so let's just throw away all our ships.
Reinforcements en route.
The biggest one that has
Reinforcements
probably the
en
most
route.
power disparity between, like in terms of being underpowered for the CIS,
Navigating to
between
coordinates.
ICW and Fall of the Republic
Flight
is
speed.
the Lucra Hulk.
Coming about.
So right now these are very weak, when in the actual mod they'll be quite strong.
Reinforcements cancelled. Reinforcements cancelled.
We do plan to cover Civil Squadron stuff, but
Reinforcements
the
cancelled.
the main focus of the mod
Awaiting instructions.
is just
Direct
for
fire at their
0.5
laser
and
cannon.
1.0. We're only looking at stuff between episode 2 and episode 3, so just the Clone Wars themselves. And like we have other stuff we'd like to do, but because plans can change so much, we don't want to go and like spread ourselves too thin, like commit to too much right now, because then like if we want to cover something else, if we want to have like if different priorities emerge, we don't want to say it's hard to say what we are or aren't going to do, because we're internally deciding not to commit to that right now until we figure out like once the mod's released which areas need to be focused on more, because that's one of the things we've learned a lot with ICW is
Yes, come on.
you can try to make all these long-term plans all you want, but ultimately after the current version releases you end up focusing on something entirely different, so it doesn't really
Direct fire at their laser
like me
cannon.
trying to say we are or aren't going to do something at that point, it's almost meaningless, next to meaningless.
I'm in a tight spot.
They're coming in.
Where are you?
More
I
enemy
can't take
craft.
another hit like that.
Taking fire.
Cover me. Enemy fighters on me.
I've got him. Commander, they're hitting us. Ready? Cruiser reporting. Where'd he go? Gunship reporting.
Like we've said, we want to bring the timeline back more past episode 2, but like if it turns out we need to put a lot more work into fleshing out the Clone Wars themselves and the stuff that was going on in that time period, we might not be able to do that, or it might look like it might be in a different form than people are generally expecting for Empire at War. So whether it ends up being like a series of historical missions or just covering it in like the skirmish type stuff, or it ends up being a GC thing for stuff before the Clone Wars, it's hard to say.
Can anyone else see him? Where are you?
So basically right now we're just focusing on getting like the core rosters set up and balanced in a way that makes sense,
Batteries online.
getting all those core assets done, and then you'll also start seeing more like experimental Clone Wars stuff, so stuff that isn't part of the core roster but was used during the Clone Wars, so you might end up seeing more like later on maybe Secular Gladiator, that kind of thing.
They've got us targeted.
Target those lasers.
Squad, I need help. Can anyone
Our
else
turbo
see him?
laser batteries have been disabled.
I'm on them.
Weapons ready.
Blocking
Where
on.
are you?
Enemies
I'm in a
in
tight
range.
spot. I can't take another
The
hit
shields
like that.
aren't holding. Wheeling around.
And we really want to take advantage of the fact that this is a mod that has,
Primary engine
like with
system is
ICW, we
down.
have to part of the appeal with ICW is that there are so many factions with all this stuff in the galaxy. But with Fall of the Republic, well, we don't have quite that same thing going on where you can't have like 20 GCs with 19 different factions.
Down.
It does mean that we can put a lot more into the smaller number of factions, so that opens up different possibilities, and that's something that we're really looking forward to being able to do, is focusing on just that smaller number of things so we can flesh them out in different ways.
Squad, I need help. My sensors are malfunctioning.
So we're just going to let our fleet die here. Then we'll quit out and we'll go over to the Republic side of things.
Intercepting.
Where are you?
I'm on them.
I can't take another hit like
They're
that.
hitting us.
Moving in for the kill.
Someone
Stay in
cover me.
formation.
Yes, sir.
Enemy fighters on me. Enemy fighters incoming. I'm
I
losing my
have them
engine.
now.
I've got a lock.
Target.
The Carrick gets later on. Yeah. So Dreadnought, Carrick, all that kind of stuff that had upgraded armaments during the Imperial period will be getting their Clone Wars armament. And all these these green lasers for the Republic, they're going to be blue. The CIS would tend to be red, but everything will be changed to be more period appropriate.
Draw their fire. Attack. Attack formation. Go after the
Anyone else
stragglers.
see him? Where are you?
Moving in for the kill. Almost
I can't take another
Our
hit like
engines
that.
are gone, sir.
I think that fleshing out just a small number of factions really well. These are kind of
Shields
pushing.
aren't holding.
It'll be nice to be able to focus on that smaller number of things rather than
Where'd he come from?
like smaller numbers of more distinct factions
Enemy fighters.
will be nice.
This is bad.
Swinging
My
around.
sensors are malfunctioning.
Thrusters at maximum.
I'm under attack.
Commander, they're hitting us.
I'm hit. They've got us targeted. Squad, I need help.
One of the things I need to do is rewatch
Can anyone else see
the
him?
Clone Wars series too, or really for the most part, just watch.
Our turbo laser batteries have been disabled.
I've got him lined up. Sir, I've detected.
I've got a fix.
Reporting.
Someone cover
I've
me.
never seen the full thing before.
I'm running out of maneuvers.
Swinging around.
Run.
Making another pass.
There will not be corruption.
Formation. Got one. Draw their fire.
You be including the stealth ship that I can use the bonus. That's not going to be in the first release.
Enemy fighters on me.
Maybe it'll probably be in like further releases, but
Losing my engine.
I'm losing.
for the heirs for Fall of the Republic, we're also looking at post Clone Wars, early Empire, like separate holdouts. No, so we won't be covering the Imperial period at all in Fall of the Republic. If we ever did that, it would be in its own like Galactic Civil War mod.
Taking fire.
Enemy fighters
Commander, they're
incoming.
hitting us.
I'm getting torn apart.
All right.
Nowhere to run.
I'm under attack. I'm hit.
Falling out of formation.
All right, so that's going to do it for the CIS side of things. And let's go in on the Republic. There's Yoda sitting there. And you also see things like updated icons so that it actually reflects the proper team coloring and all that they'll have. Pelion will be in the mod, but he won't be Grand Admiral Pelion like that one.
Constructing unit.
Destination
Mission log
confirmed.
updated.
Heading out. On our way. Heading for coordinates.
Yeah, I think his ship was called Leveler.
Beginning construction.
So yeah, we have are you going to be playing this on the YouTube channel? It's on, I'm actually live on both Twitch and YouTube. This particular video will be up at some point this week. And then in the future when there's actually stuff done in it, it'll be we'll be doing full series as it is, isn't it?
At once.
Tactical battle imminent.
See you, Drew. Thanks for coming out. Hope you enjoyed it. I really hate that Yoda icon. It's just the default Force of Corruption one.
Enemy forces ahead.
Carrot commander here. Understood.
Choose your reinforcements.
We're on our way.
Setting course. Right away.
Reinforcements cancelled.
Moving into position. Fall out.
Reinforcements cancelled.
Let's move out. Let's go.
Navigating. I copy. Confirmed. Right away. Roger. Another one down. Underway.
Reinforcements cancelled.
Intercept.
Moving into position.
Enemies in range.
Moving to sector. Calic en route.
Apparently there's another one down.
Shields are down.
Stay in formation. Closing on target. Pursuing enemy forces. Taking them out. Have them now. Engaging the enemy. I'm on them.
Sir.
Target locked. I'm on this one. Coming around.
More time has passed and you've had enough time to fletch out the mods, perhaps some
Coming
use.
around. I've got them in my sights.
I don't know. We were gonna do a Galactic Civil War era thing in the
Coming back around for another.
original iteration of 2.2, but I don't know if we'll ever do that or if we do
Reporting in.
a GCW mod or nothing. It's always hard to say.
Open fire on those
Always
laser
in
cannons.
motion the future is.
Weapons online.
Intercepting. He won't be around much longer.
Yes, there is always Phoenix Rising.
Draw their fire. Stay in formation. Target.
Another very good mod.
I'll take care of this. I have them now. Attack formation. I'm on them.
What are your
Coming
orders?
around. Enemies in range. Go after the stragglers. Target locked. I've got eliminating target. I've got them in my sights. Coming back around for another run.
The goal right now is to use as little non-Clone Wars stuff as I can for this video.
Target locked.
Awaiting command.
Intercepting. I'm on them. Stay in formation. Getting a lock. Get behind them. I have them.
When do you think this will be ready to play a full Let's Play?
I'm on.
Republic before the CIS, I think, will be ready.
Destroyed.
The CIS will at least have enough stuff to fight against.
Coming around.
Hopefully we'll have done it, we'll have started by the end of the summer. That would be really nice. Then we could get the mod.
On target.
In a perfect world, we'd get 0.5 out before the end of the year.
He's headed your direction.
Yes, Commander.
Get it out in December, but that would be...
Fire on those torpedo launchers.
Behind them. I have them now. Regroup for
Affirmative.
another
Cruiser
attack.
here.
There's still a lot of work in basically every way to do between now and then, so
Pursuing enemy forces.
you never know.
Target locked.
Reporting in.
Another one down.
Standing by.
Carrot commander here.
Eliminating target.
A lot of that depends on map lighting, Vinny.
Charge laser cannons.
Tighten that.
Picking up signals.
Coming around.
Reporting.
I've got them in my sights. More enemy craft.
Attacking.
Taking fire. I'm losing.
Yeah, I've never liked how much stuff said a lot of the Clone Wars ships could handle.
Where'd he go?
It just seems kind of ridiculous.
Run. Falling out of formation. Coming back around for another run.
Generally, we've gone with, I think, half that. And usually, like, a quarter are available at any given time.
Yes, sir.
Star Cruiser
Go
here.
after the stragglers.
Star Cruiser standing by. Enemies in range.
I got it. Regroup for another attack.
Cruiser online. Attacking.
Engaging the enemy. Target
Sir,
I
intercept.
have it on good authority that there's another one down.
what are your orders?
Taking fire. Execution. Commander, they're hitting us.
Come about.
Watch your back.
Enemy fighters
I got
in range.
Intercepting.
Locking on.
He won't be around much longer.
Roger that.
Alright, there's another one down. And...
Understood.
Construction complete.
I don't think I'm actually going to do any ground battles. Not until the clones and the battle droids are actually in game, but...
Moving to sector.
Heading out.
Tactical battle imminent.
Oh, poor Munificent.
We've located the enemy.
Another one bites the dust.
Carrack commander here. Carrack en route. Understood.
Choose your reinforcements.
We'll be there shortly.
On our way. Heading for coordinates. At once.
Reinforcements.
Oh yeah, so
canceled.
on stuff we've already also got done. The Clone Wars era Y-Wings we do have done. They're not in game yet. I think it's still got to be skinned.
Awaiting orders.
There's like 10 or 15 models that are just waiting for skins or rigging. So there'll start to be a lot more stuff getting done. We've pretty much tracked down all the major bugs with 2.2 that need to be fixed, and we're going to be pushing out fixes for those in 2.2.5. And at that point, we're going to be moving on to 2.3 and focusing on Fall of the Republic as well. So that's probably when you're going to start seeing a lot more new stuff come out, both on the channel and on like mod database, the forums, Discord, whatever. Where are you going?
Right away.
Tactical
There's
battle
Luke Rogue.
imminent.
See you guys. Thanks for coming out. What's rigging? So rigging is when you put on like all the fire particles for when ships' hardpoints are broken off, all the bones to attach the particles, and the hardpoints, death clone, like all attach the texture to the model and then export it into the Alamo format for the engine to actually read.
Moving into position.
So it's the process of getting the model from just being a model to being a model that Empire at War can use.
Let's go. Moving out.
Moving out. On my way.
I have them now.
Another one down.
I'm on them.
Down.
I've detected.
Down.
Attack that target.
Another one down. Another one down.
I copy.
Another one
Destroy those lasers.
Another one down.
Attacking target. Target.
I feel like that VO is going to get old real fast.
Ready, go.
Another one down.
Eliminating target.
Choose your
That specific line.
reinforcements.
Let's go.
Coming around.
We'll be there soon.
Target.
Moving to sector. Carrack en route.
Got them in my sight.
Not the voice actor.
Understood.
Nowhere to run. Coming back around for another run.
Is the schedule making Fall of the Republic ahead than expected?
I'm on them.
Yeah,
Stay in formation.
I don't know, because we were hoping to get Imperial Civil War 2.2 done faster than we did. Beyond even just the delay from like the
Under control.
March release date to the April one.
Coming around.
But
Coming around.
overall,
Returning to your position. I've got them in my sights.
because even when we announced it, we said we weren't really going to work on it until after 2.2 was done, and that was really only a month and a half ago that got released.
Intercepting. I'm on.
So this is basically what's been done when we've still been focusing on the 2.2 patches in the last 2 months.
Enemies in range.
So there's actually been a fair amount done, and for the time frame, for the amount of time that has been devoted to it, but
Target lost.
Heading for
Enemy
coordinates.
forces.
there's still a ton to be done.
Moving out.
Coming around.
Heading
In
out.
my sights. Coming back around for another run. Getting alive.
Lucas, this is Fall of the Republic. Very, very, very early version of Fall of the Republic.
I'm on this one.
Ready.
I'm on them.
Move to attack.
Stay in formation. He's headed your
Move to
direction.
attack.
Get behind them. I have them
Yes, sir.
now.
Enemy
Attack
forces
formation.
sighted.
I'm on.
Your orders, sir?
Go after the stragglers.
We're in position.
It's not really a submod. It's right now it's sort of resting on ICW's infrastructure, but it's gonna be broken off more and more as the stuff for it gets done.
Enemies in range.
So like it'll be a completely separate download from ICW. A lot of the features will be completely separate. The balancing will be completely separate. All the assets will be separate. So it's more just that we're taking advantage of the fact that we have the infrastructure set up, all the planet coding, all the trade route coding, all the basic coding for the units, which we do need to alter a lot for the mod, but we're building it off of that. Like already the entire XML folder is pretty much separated. A lot of the scripts are separated. A lot of the art stuff is starting to separate. So we're basically trying to work off the same framework, the scripts that are kind of agnostic to the content. So stuff like ability scripts or the display structures, that kind of thing. All the stuff that runs in the background. And that's what's basically shared between them. All right, so 40 minutes.
Construction complete.
Setting course.
Tactical battle imminent. Tactical battle imminent.
Right away.
Tactical battle imminent.
Is there a plan in place to ensure players use the kilometers instead of just spam vendors? Well, we want each unit to serve some kind of a role and not be like the only way a faction can win, especially if you have like one super OP unit for each faction that
What are your orders?
just if you don't use it, you're kind of screwed.
Moving to sector.
Like
Choose your
the
reinforcements.
idea is that we want to make the mod as balanced as we can.
Moving into position.
And part of that will mean like trying to make sure that the AI does stuff properly so they can take advantage of the
Reporting.
strengths of the faction and all the ships properly, or use all the ships properly,
Reporting in.
which should in turn hopefully mean that players are going to have
Moving out.
more diverse fleets instead of just spamming one ship where it may
Ready
have
for
certain
battle.
weaknesses that need to be covered by other ships.
Direct fire at their laser cannons.
I didn't say that.
Excellent shot.
The enemy has been defeated.
All right. Well, I think we might leave that there. So again, very early look. There's still a lot to be done. There's still a lot we are doing,
Battle imminent.
but we'll just get this out of the way. What role does in the FTC? I mean, it's always going to be a work in progress, but generally, especially with Fall of the Republic, where there's smaller groups of units to work with. So like there's not like 73,000 Imperial units or
Copy
Republic units like there are for the Empire.
Moving out.
Which on one hand is good because then we can put it off to other warlord factions, but I mean that's one of the other things that's good about having a smaller number of factions, because it's a lot easier to balance 2 factions than 8, and like 40 to 50 units than 200. Yeah, the B-Wings are spawning from the Munificent,
Standing
because
by.
it's still using the library
Disable
script from
those iron
ICW.
cannons.
I do have 15 minutes left. 20 technically on the actual live part, but Munificents get any fighter compliments in Fall of the Republic? There's something we're doing for that
Fire at will.
that we'll talk about later.
Attacking.
That probably makes it sound a lot more interesting than it is, but whatever.
They're coming in quick. I got one. I've got them in my sights. Coming back around for another run.
Getting a lock.
Intercepting. I'm on them. Locking on.
Weapons
Stay in
online.
formation. Enemies
Commander
in
here.
range. Get behind them. I have them now. I'm on them. Target locked. Coming around.
I'm actually less tired than I was
I've got them in my
about the time the Black Fleet crisis crashed.
back
Got a second wind.
position.
Getting a lock.
Admiral Trench gets added. What will his fighter complement be? Trench will be there.
Taking fire.
His fighter complement will be
Finish him. Stay in formation.
probably a bit higher than the regular Providence. It's like I think the regular Providence
Target
is supposed to be more carrier oriented, whereas the bigger one is supposed to be more destroyer oriented. So I don't know that it'll be like double, relative to the size, so we thought about deliberately limiting the pop cap to keep the number of fighters reasonable. Well, that'll be more controlled by how many we allow them to put on the field at once. So, like, it definitely won't be anywhere near what we're using right now for the size of fleets we're using. Especially with this size fighter, which we were talking about in the comments before. For Vultures, you'll probably see a few more CIS fighters than you've been seeing in this, but the Republic isn't going to spit out quite so many fighters. But generally, we'll have the full cannon complement total, but there'll be more of a split between like reserves and what you have up front. So there'll be more of a focus on the fact that the fighters will stay kind of consistent until one runs out.
Coming around. I got one.
Just make it backwards.
Locking on. Getting a lock.
Well, we're mostly just basing it off of what the cannon information is.
Back around for another run.
Getting a lock.
Closing on target. Intercept.
24-hour stream. 100,000 subscribers. If I ever hit that, I'll do 24 hours.
Intercepting. Enemies in range. He won't be around much longer. Target critical. I have them now.
That was the double long Providence he saw there. After Father Republic is established, what other factions would you like to add? Well, we'd like to do something with the Huts, but I'm going to end the recorded part here. So, for those of you watching the VOD, that's going to do it. So this was recorded at the end of the 12-hour stream. I'm going to cut that off here, and then we've still got a couple minutes left for the live stream. But we'll do some other stuff. So, thanks for watching VOD, people, and see you in like 3 seconds, stream people.